Really good start to the night anyway, but thanks. Thanks to everyone for joining us at our Manawatū Standard Candidates event tonight. My name's George Heagney. I'm a reporter at the Manawatū Standard and Stuff. Can you still hear me if I'm talking back like this?
Not as well.
Great, I'll speak up anyway, but no, thank you. We've got our 4 invited candidates here tonight, so we'll hear from them briefly, but just from down at this end we've got Mike Harnett from ACT, Ankit Bansal of National, Teanau Tuiono from Greens, and Tangi Utikere, from Labour. So we'll hear from them shortly, but I'd just like to thank the Library, City Library, for hosting us tonight, and Manawatū People's Radio who are here helping as well. There's going to be an audio version by the end of this week, and video sometime next week apparently. And tonight will also be covered by the Manawatū Standard. Will be on Stuff tomorrow and in Thursday's newspaper. So just for the format tonight, we'll just have a brief period for each candidate, introductions and a couple of questions, which try not to go on to all night. Then we'll go into our reader questions, where they have a minute each, and I've got a bell, which I think will sound at with 10 seconds to go, then start going repetitively, or I'll see how I get on. We'll do something else anyway to tell you to be quiet. We'll do that. I've got a randomly selected order anyway, but we'll crack on. You don't want to hear from me.
Can I just raise one issue?
Sure, I've already explained it to you, but go.
I came along tonight as a citizen wanting to hear all of the candidates. My understanding there's 6 candidates, and here we have 4. And I just want to express my very sincere disappointment that there were 2 candidates who were not invited, and that doesn't seem to be democracy. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Well, as I've said and was in the story which publicised it, we've kept to 5%, which is quite a standard procedure, and it's trying to limit it to time anyway, so that's why. But thanks, I get your point, and thanks for raising it anyway. So we'll crack on, and randomly selected draw, and sorry Ankit, this is it was random, but you've got to go first anyway. But if you want to take the microphone, please.
Thank you, George, and so lovely to be here. Thank you to Manawatū People's Radio for covering this event as well. So, as you know, I'm the National Party candidate here. A bit of background: I have a bachelor's and master's degree in business administration. Over 10 years of working experience in public and private sectors in overseas and locally, mainly in procurement as well. And have more than 5 years of experience owning a small IT business as well. So I know some of the challenges which our small businesses are facing in the economy as well. Since my selection as a candidate, I've been focusing full-time on this new role. And based on the feedback from the community has asked me to focus on 4 main things. Right? First of all is cost of living. Another is health and education, infrastructure and housing, and more importantly, on the safety of the crime as well. So these are my focus areas which I'll be passionate. And personally, I'm very passionate about education, because education is the key to success. And with education, we can solve so many other social challenges as well. Joe, how much time do you want me to go? Because I understand you want to ask questions as well.
Ask you, but you've done well. You started without even a question, so that's good. Just on some of those issues you raised there, I mean, there's quite a good chance National could be in government in a few weeks.
Yes.
Some of those topics you just mentioned there, what are some tangible things you'll do to try and improve those, whether it's education or whatever else?
Lovely. I'll start with the cost of living first, right? Because everyone sitting in this room is hammered by the cost of living, right? To provide a meaningful tax relief, an average Kiwi family earning on an average income with a couple of kids, right? They will be given a tax relief of $250 per fortnight. That is from in the first year itself, right? Apart from, and to control the inflation and other interest rates, we will bring back the RBNZ, Reserve Bank's mandate. Single focus will be on the price stabilization and keeping the inflation between 1% and 3%. For the education, we will bring the back to basic teaching the basics brilliantly policy, because a lot of our kids right now, they are not prepared. Even though they're progressing through the education system, but they're not prepared for the real world in terms of literacy and numeracy. So for primary and intermediate kids, we will focus them like an hour each day on reading, writing, and maths. Right? In health and health space, we will retain more staff, Any student nurses or the midwives, if they spend 5 years in the country, it doesn't matter anywhere, whether it's private or public, anywhere in the country, we will pay $22,500 of their student loan to retain them. To train more of their own in-house doctors, we will have 220 more doctors by opening up in the third medical school and increasing the places at the existing medical facilities in Auckland and Otago. The last one, especially about, like I mentioned about crime, we will not be soft on crimes. There can be any excuses on like whatever the reasons, but there will be consequences for the actions, and the victims will be at the center of the justice system. And quite often we have seen many examples where the offenders get away with too light punishment. So we will restrict the judge's ability to discount to a maximum 40% discount by keeping all the other factors in there as well. And we will set up a $20 million fund to support the victims of these offences. Thank you.
Great, that's good. One of the things you mentioned just then, tax relief, I think a lot's been made about those. Some of the things that National has had to do, I think you've had to, take money from the Climate Emergency Response Fund and scrapping other things such as 23 hours of the free ECE. Like, really, are these affordable, or are these the right things to be doing at the moment?
Well, you talked about, I'm glad you raised about the climate emergency, right? The government has given $140 million to NZ Steel, right? And they nearly, the poor NZ Steel, they only made half a billion dollar profit. Why can't these corporates, they do these decarbonization efforts themselves? The government has committed $90 million to Fonterra, right? Poor Fonterra only made $1.2 billion last year. So rather than charitising or giving this money to corporates, we will give money to the Kiwi households. They deserve this better, right?
But are they affordable, do you think, the tax cuts?
100%. And you will see it in the first year. That's what I'm saying. You wait.
So we'll move on, but one of the other ones is National, is you're proposing to cut public services and ask, I think, CEOs to look at where they can cut spending or wasteful spending.
Yes.
Where are these going to come from, do you think? And is it, are we still going to have viable public services if this goes ahead?
100%. We had, just for the reminder, and you will know it as a reporter, right? We had 14,000 extra public servants in the last 6 years. Do you see do you see better public services anywhere? Health, education, law and order, you name it, right? And those services we are targeting, those will be coming from the back-end offices, like 200 comms staffs, like not from the front line, but from the back-end offices. So we will have a public service, but that is fit for purpose, and that is focused on the core services rather than the back-end offices.
Great. Another national one as well, I think you want to get rid of 3 waters or affordable waters reform or whatever it is now, but somewhere like Palmerston North, we need a new wastewater treatment plant, right? And, we probably can't afford one without any sort of government assistance. How are we going to afford that without everyone's rates bill in Palmerston North and also other sort of regions that need infrastructure upgrades? How are they going to afford those?
Yeah, the first thing is like you mentioned, the examples of Palmerston North wastewater. There's no doubt we need funding in that space, right? But the format that Labour government has proposed, that's not the right format. We will be coming with the more localized and decentralized approach, and we will be helping councils to get this and retain the assets rather than the government taking ownership and or the mega entities owning ownership. The ratepayers still own these assets. We will just help them. We will help to get these ones. Another thing in water space, we'll bring a regulator as well, and that's how we will measure those targets. And if they intervene where and when we need this help from the central government.
Great. All right. And just lastly, I forgot to mention this earlier, but I've got a couple of quick fire ones for everyone. I mean, quick fire anyway. So, favourite cafe in town?
Double shots.
How many houses do you own?
1.
And supposedly earlier this year, the Spanish women's football team said Palmerston North was boring, whether or not that was true, but why is Palmerston North not boring?
Oh, look, I was raised in a small town, like in a country town. Palmerston North is a lovely place, and even just today, like a few hours ago, yeah, right, it's a lovely place to raise a family. That's why I made this one as home.
Good. Favourite TV show?
I really don't watch a lot of TV, to be honest.
What was your first job?
first job was it's a long time ago, like a taxation in a taxation office as an assistant, just to document a career.
Great. All right. Thanks, Ankit. That's good. Cheers.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done. Right. Next up, Teanau, it's your turn.
Kia ora koutou katoa, te aroa nui o tō tātou nei atua. Kia ora everyone, my name is Teanau Tuiono. I'm a Green Party Member of Parliament based here in Palmerston North. It's good to be back here at this debate. Actually, I was thinking about the last time we had this debate at the last election. I actually had fallen off a bicycle and I had to hobble in, so it was pretty awesome to walk through the front door on both my legs. So it's awesome here to be debating the issues. A bit more about me. I've got a background in law, passionate about Indigenous people's rights and the environment, which led me into the Greens. I've raised all of my 4 children here. I love this town. I think this town is awesome. It's not boring, it's a vibe. That's the line I've been using when people have been hitting me up about Palmerston North after our Spanish friends left us. And I think there's so much here to offer for communities, for families, and that's why I'm still here. I followed my wife here. She said that we were going to be here for 3 months. 3 kids later, we're still here, and we've become part of the community fabric of the place. I guess I'm here to ask for you to think about the vote that you are going to make on October the 14th. And I'm asking you to party vote Green this election. If you want to have an income guarantee where everybody is guaranteed to have enough putea, enough money in the back pocket, then think about party voting Green. If you want the government to look after the ocean, for healthy oceans, party vote Green this election. If you are one of the 1.4 million renters in this country, and you know that we need a renter's pledge so that you can have a warm, healthy home, then I'm asking you to party vote Green this election. If you believe that a Tiriti or Waitangi-centric society is a great society for us to live in, then I'm asking you to party vote Green this election. The Greens, we are about supporting the climate and the community. We are about supporting people and the planet, people before profit. And if that resonates with you, and I hope that it does, party vote Green this election.
Right, you've got a few of them there. So for the Green Party, obviously one of your focuses is the environment, right? I know that goes without saying. This sort of term, could you just tell us, what have you done towards that, or, what have you guys implemented about the environment, do you think?
Well, the Jobs for Nature was a very successful program which was led us through during the COVID times when people needed jobs. That was led from our side by Eugenie Sage. We want to see that happen, to continue to happen, because having nature-based jobs is really important. When you think about the context that we're living in, we're in the middle of a climate crisis, we're in the middle of a biodiversity crisis, and across all of that, the inequality crisis. That's why we need to be incredibly strategic with the way that we use our money. We've got a clean power payment policy that we put out as well, and what that is about recycling that money within the ETS to help homes transition from using fossil fuel solutions within their homes. I'm talking about gas stoves, to helping them to get solar panels, heat pumps, better insulation, and those sorts of things. It'll be overseen by the EECA, but supported by regional councils. That's another way that we are looking at helping to bring down emissions here in Aotearoa.
Housing's another one. Realistically, house prices, maybe they're stagnating at the moment, but how can you guys actually, get them more affordable for people?
As part of our pledge to renters, we also want to have rent caps because when we did our pledge for renters, we asked people, send us your stories, right? Send us your stories about the stories about your experiences with renting. And people sent us in pictures. I saw one picture where somebody had mushrooms growing in the corner of their lounge, broken windows, these sorts of things. And this country is not a poor country, right? This country is well off. We're in the OECD, and everybody in this country deserves to have a warm home, be able to put food on the table, keep the lights on, and have a dream and aspiration for their children and for their grandchildren.
Right, and what about the proposed wealth tax that you guys have spoke about I think that's going to be covering things such as free dental and your guaranteed universal income. So how is this going to work?
So with the things that we've been proposing this election, free dental care for everybody, because that's so expensive, an income guarantee to make sure that people aren't falling into poverty, and that's also for students as well, and also acknowledging that here in Palmerston North, we've got a university up on the hill, and the People's Inquiry last year told us that 2/3 of students actually experience poverty and hardship. And also within the context of the OECD, we are the only country within the OECD which doesn't have a capital gains tax, a wealth tax or stamp duty, or a combination of those three. We are the only ones that don't have it. So we are the outlier. And if you think about the wealth gap in New Zealand, we have 311 of the richest families within Aotearoa New Zealand who have a cumulative wealth of $85 billion. That is more money than the poorest 2.5 million people in New Zealand. That is the wealth gap that we have. And that's why it's important for us to have a fair tax system and make sure that the mega wealthy pay for their fair share.
Do you think that is fair, or sort of punishing the people who are successful at the top end?
No, I don't think so. That people should be paying their fair share. I mean, the effective tax rate that the wealthy are paying is less than the effective tax rate of our teachers and our nurses. And also, let's remember, we're in the middle of a workforce shortage. And if we want to encourage people to go to university so they can become teachers or nurses and all the other occupations which are short of workers, then we need to make sure that they've got an income guarantee so that they aren't living in poverty when they go to those places as well. These things can be sorted. We just have to organise ourselves.
Great. All right. And on to the quickfire ones then. So do you have any pets?
Yes, I've had numerous. Well, I don't have pets. I blink. I don't come. I'm away, and then my kids bring animals home. That's how it works in my house.
Great. Why is Palmerston North not boring?
Palmerston North is not boring. It's a vibe. Someone should take this phrase of mine and put it on a t-shirt.
Yeah, that's good. How many houses do you own?
Just one.
Favourite movie?
Favourite what?
Movie.
Favourite movie? Oh my gosh, how long have we got? I'm going to go with Star Wars trilogy. Of course I am.
And can you ride a bike?
Yes, I can ride a bike. But last election, not very well. But I'm better. We had car-free day on last week as well, and I managed to get off the bike uninjured. So.
Great, thank you. All right, Tangi, you're next.
Tēnā tātou katoa, kia ora ana koutou katoa, and good evening. Thanks, George. Thanks to staff in the Standard and NPR for pulling this together this evening. Kia ora whānau, I'm Tangi Utikere. I'm the Labour candidate for this year's election and the current Member of Parliament for Palmerston North. My background is in education before moving on to the City Council, spending a decade there, some time as the Deputy Mayor of this wonderful city before moving into Parliament. I have gone into every election, and I've had a few of them in this community, basically standing on my track record. And for me, this election is no different. I am very happy to stand on my track record of getting things done for this local community. The key thing is that we need someone in Parliament who is able to represent this community. I was born here, I have lived here, I have never left. So for me, being able to represent this community that I'm very proud to call my home is an absolute privilege, and one that I would like to continue to do for the next 3 years. But in terms of the record, a lot of people don't know that MPs spend a minimum of about 30 weeks a year down in Parliament. And so for me, that means that as the local MP, being accessible, continuing to be accessible, is extremely important. And so I have assisted through my office and myself over 2,000 constituents over the last 3 years. I'm regularly at the Saturday market, and I have Palmy pop-ups, which are my constituency clinics, all around our city every 3 weeks. So I'm proud of the fact that I've been able to continue to be an accessible local representative. I'm also proud of the fact that we have delivered housing, public housing in this community after years and years and years of neglect by the previous national government. And there are stats to support that. When National was in power, we had 115 houses less. 115 public houses that were hopped off, sold off, homes for people completely gone. Since Labor took over up to July of this year, we have built 120 social houses, or public houses, and in the next 3 years we will deliver a minimum of 550. So I'm proud of that particular track record for this community. I'm also proud to be a strong advocate for the Capital Connection. Not just the upgrade to carriages that the Labor government has delivered, but also being a strong advocate to ensure that in this year's budget, hundreds of millions of dollars has been committed to retain the iconic local service that we expect to continue to be in play, but also the fact that it will continue, not just in its current form, but there will be more services, weekend services, and it will be quicker to get between here and Wellington. So I'm encouraging you to support me as the local candidate for the Labor Party. I'm also encouraging you to give your party vote to Labor, because we've got some pretty tough challenges ahead, and obviously households are doing it tough with the cost of living right now, but we've got plans around fresh fruit and vegetables, plans around universal dental care starting with those aged under 30, talking about rolling out 20 hours to 2-year-olds for ECE, and much, much more. Party vote Labor. Yeah.
Thanks, Tangi. Were you looking at my notes? You got all my questions there, just about.
He's done.
Yeah, no, so that's good. I mean, you talked about your track record. What about for Labor? You've had a huge majority this term. Do you guys think you've achieved enough, or, have you done enough with that?
Well, I think it's obviously been difficult circumstances. Nobody can deny our country and our community of that. But, there's also been a lot of suggestions around Labor and its management of the books. The preview, which are the financial documents that come out before an election, there was this anticipation of doom and gloom, and far from it, that was not the case. So I think in Labor we have a government and a party that shows that it is, we have strong stewards of the public's resources, and will continue to be so.
I think Grant said it wasn't, it is in a recession, right? But, it is, talk to anyone probably here, it's not easy at home, whether you're in the supermarket or filling up. What do you think about that? Sorry, you go.
No, totally. It is not easy at the moment, which is why we don't think tax cuts that basically are targeted at those who are not the most vulnerable in our community will work. And I'll give an example of this. National's tax cut proposes to deliver someone on the minimum wage a tax cut of $10 a week, $10 a week. You line that up with Labor's proposal and suite of policies to continue with free and half-priced public transport for families, GST of fresh and frozen fruit and vegetables, early childhood education, boosts to working for families, keeping the prescription surcharge that they propose to get rid of for some people, and much, much more.
Great. And you mentioned earlier as well the GST off fruit and vegetables. Is that going to be enough to make a difference for your average Joe in the supermarket, worrying about making ends meet?
Well, I think the reality is you either have a choice, which is a tax cut that will not really benefit the people who need support with the cost of living crisis and issues at the moment, or you have GST of fresh and frozen fruit and vegetables alongside other initiatives as well. Let's not view this in isolation. What's important is that all of these things add up, and at the end of the day, they will make a huge difference to households who are doing it tough right now.
Great. And I saw one of your billboards, Princess Street, I think it's, there's a couple of things, I can't remember what they all are, but one of the ones is cheaper houses. How are you going to do that?
It's actually cheaper food, more houses, and Capital Connection. And so in terms of the houses, I've talked about the track record of this Labor government in terms of building houses here in this community. We have had so many years of neglect. We have also recently announced that we will continue to deliver more. Palmerston North will be in the mix, but we just need to talk to families who now have homes that have been provided through the public housing system to know that that is making a huge difference to this community.
Great, all right. And quickfire ones, Palmerston North or Palmy?
Palmy.
Last book you read? Not for pleasure, not for work.
Probably be a John Grisham Something like that, Last Testament, I think.
Great. How many houses do you own?
One.
Why is Palmerston North not boring?
Because we are a community. You know, we are multicultural, we are diverse, we support each other, we have volunteers who do a fantastic job. Why would you not want to live in a flat city that is easily connected and accessible?
It sounds like a bio.
And favourite food?
Anything from Jacko's, actually.
Good. All right, cool. Thanks. Thanks, Tangi. And last but not least is Mike.
It's a hard act to follow when I'm the amateur here, and this is my first time in politics, but let's give it a go. My great-grandfather met his wife in Paikokarigi railway station. My mum and dad, they met each other in Shannon railway station. I've been born and raised here in the Manawatū all my life. My great-uncle Sam, he was in the Turakina Valley, and he used to take a horse and dray down the ridge to Hunterville three times a week to play rugby, and he was the first All Black in Hunterville, and his photos on the wall there. And my grandfather hated that because my granddad had to milk the 40 cows. He had to milk them by hand because that was a round trip of 2 hours every time you went to rugby training. So I've been here a while, and also my father is a pretty staunch Irish supporter, and my mother's side, she was a Cameron and a Campbell, which are arch enemies of Scotland. And so my grandfather's name was Colin Campbell Cameron, and he was the truce between the feuding clans of Scotland. So we've believed for a very, very long time in freedom. And we believe in our freedom and our rights, and we'll stand up for that. I had one great uncle, that'll be a morning tea. I had one great uncle who was killed in Passchendaele in the First World War fighting for that freedom, and I had Uncle Mac, and he was wounded at Crete fighting for New Zealand, and then he fought at El Alamein, and then he fought at Monte Cassino, so he went through a hell of a time there as well. So it's very important to me and my family about those rights and about having individual rights. And I've seen in New Zealand in the past and with the mandates where I lost all my rights, and I didn't like that. And I don't believe that should ever happen to anyone again. Also, I want to see that there is one man, one vote, or one person, one vote, sorry. So yes, sorry about that. And I think that's very, very important, and that's a fundamental democratic right to a sovereign country. And I think we have to stand by our principles and do that. And I think that's very, very important for what we do. The other thing, what we have seen in the past, well, first of all, it's a little bit of what I wanted to do, but first of all, I want to tell you that right now we're $160 billion in debt, and we're the second most indebted country in the OECD. So there ain't much money there, and we've had to completely revamp our budget to be able to bring tax cuts, but I'll get into that a bit later. The first thing we've got to look at is the cost of living. We have to bring the cost of living down. The cost of living has been driven by inflation, and most of that inflation is actually domestic inflation. This government printed $60 billion and put it out there and expected nothing to happen, and that forced that up. Then what do? They closed all the small businesses under the mandates and under the pandemic, and they let two oligarch big businesses, Countdown and Foodstuffs, run riot on prices and put them up there because they're the only guys that were allowed to be open, and that wasn't good for businesses. And then they closed Auckland down again and completely wrecked the businesses in Auckland as well, the small businesses. So I've been in small business myself for 43 years, and there's two things I don't like: that sort of loss of freedom and tax. So one of the things that we are going to be doing is we're going to be reducing the tax on people and reducing the tax burden. What will that do with the tax burden? I'll tell you how later, but one thing it'll do, it'll increase people's productivity and their incentives to work, and that's very, very important. And if you work in business and you work really, really hard and you earn that money, you deserve to keep a little bit more of it. Full stop. There's no answer to that. Okay, now how are we going to do that? Well, the first thing is that since 2017, Ankit said 14,000. You can correct me, Ankit, but I think it's 15,000 new bureaucrats. I haven't noticed that. Okay, and so one of the things that's going to be happening is those bureaucrats are going to be looking for a new job when we get in, and we're going to bring it back to the 2017 level of bureaucracy, so that's the first thing we want to cut that spending. Most of those people are on over between 150 and 250,000. That's the first thing. So we can then take things like they've got 2,500 people in the education department now. We're going to cut that back, so we've got that money to be able to spend on the front line, exactly the same as what Ankit said. We've got to spend on the front line with our health. Really, really sad story I heard the other day when I was talking at the health talk with the doctors here, and that in all fairness, Labor has actually spent $3.8 billion in the last 3 years on mental health. And one of the sociologists from the Health Hub got up, and I said there hasn't been one added psych nurse, not one added psychologist, not one added doctor, not one added psychiatrist. And he got up and said, well, you know why that is, don't you? And I said, no, I don't actually. And he says, because it went to the health department, they took their cut. It went to the DHB, they took their cut. It went down to the PHO, they took their cut. And they didn't know what to do with it, so sent it back to the DHB and they took their cut, and that was it. There's the money gone. So if we can change that bureaucracy and we can aim that money at the front line, I think we're going to make a much bigger difference to what we're going to do. The other,
Mike, I might just interrupt you there. You're in full...
I'm on a roll. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. But just for some of those things you mentioned earlier, like cutting tax, and I think you guys want to prune the public service as well. Like, how are we going to afford to have a viable public service? Like, is that going to be a possibility if you have any say in government?
Your Ankit's already answered that for you. So we're going to cut the backroom people. We're going to cut the 15,000 bureaucrats that were there because they weren't there in 2017 and they don't need to be there now. So that's what we're going to do there. So we have to cut our spending. We're looking at saving $1 billion on the first day if we get into power, if National toe the line, right? And we're looking at saving $9 billion a year for the first 3 years. Okay. So that's what we're looking at doing. You got any other questions?
Yeah, well, we are out of time. I think one more though. What about the justice policy? Well, I mean, you want to spend quite a bit on prisons, I think. $1 billion on 500 prison beds, I believe.
One of our major concerns. One of our major concerns is the cost of living. Our second major concern is crime. Crime is out of control in New Zealand at the moment. And the big mistake that has been made is that the first priority of any government is to make sure your community is safe. Now, 2 of my sons out of 3 have been beaten up. I've been seriously assaulted, okay? And I'm not happy. So we've got to have a safer community, and that's the first priority of this government, and they have failed. So what they talk about is putting wraparound services around these guys that have mental problems and have criminal problems, that sort of stuff. That's okay, but don't leave them in the community because you're not making the community safe. So get them out of the community, put them in an area where you can put the wraparound services on them. And where we're going to put them? We're going to put them in jail, but we're not going to let them out until they've done rehabilitation. 90% of the people who get out of jail early have not done any rehabilitation. They're going to learn to read and write so they can actually write and sit a driver's test so they can get a driver's licence.
Just cut you off there, sorry, Mike, just to keep on time. I'll just go through the quick fire ones.
Yep.
I mean quick fire. So, favourite music?
It's called the Dead South. They're from Saskatchewan. They're amazing. You've got to watch them, the Dead South. They are amazing.
Cat or dog?
Angus, he's my Highland Terrier. No, he's a Ken Terrier from Scotland. Yeah.
How many houses do you own?
1.
When did you last catch public transport?
Aeroplane. I don't know. I can't. Yeah, when I went up to the ACT party, when I went up to the ACT party meeting up in Auckland. Yeah.
Great. And what was the last meal you cooked?
2 nights ago, and it was I cooked rump steak for myself, and for my partner, she had a fillet steak, which is absolutely beautiful, and it's my own beast, and it's organically grown.
Great, I will be around to your place for dinner after this anyway, but that's good. Thanks, guys. That's the first segment out of the way, so now we'll go into the reader questions where you have a minute each, and bell will ring with 10 seconds to go, and that's time to wrap it up. So I've chosen a random order, for this again, but then just to save hassle, we'll just go back and forth. Might be easier. So, Tangi, I'll get you to go first on this one. and then you can just pass it down as you go. But well, first of all, this is the obvious one, and we've stolen this from last time anyway, but what's the biggest issue in Palmerston North, and what are you going to do about it?
Well, I think everyone would accept that it is the cost of living pressures that households are facing. And so for Labor, it's about providing, as I've said, the suite of initiatives to support families that are doing it tough right now. You know, the conversations that I have out on the doorsteps and with folks here in our local community, it comes as no surprise. And so, you know, it is about access to dental, it is about access at the supermarket for food being cheaper, it is about not having to worry about the medication that you might need to pick and choose which ones you might want to take. It is about continuing to increase the minimum wage, as we have done every single year for the last 6 years. And it's also about maintaining things like fair pay agreements to ensure that those who are on lower wages are able to actually be supported as well.
Great, didn't even need the bell, that's good. All right, well, Teanau, do you want to go now?
Yeah, all of that, but with a wealth tax. No. I think we're all going to agree that it's that cost of living pressure and those costs as well. So, which is why we're coming to this election with free dental care for everyone, not just for people under 30, because I've spoken to a number of older people where it's incredibly expensive for them as well. So making sure that is extended to them, I think, would be very beneficial, because many of our elders, they don't think of themselves first. They think about their children and their grandchildren as well. And by the time it's time for them to go down to the dentist, there's no money in the pocket as well. So we can have free dental care. We can have an income guarantee so that people aren't in poverty. We can have free lunches in schools for all of our tamariki if we have the courage to make the tax system fairer.
As I mentioned earlier, the first thing in the first year of the term we will do is provide tax relief, because the tax bracket hasn't moved in a long time. And like I said, an average Kiwi family with the 2 kids will be saving up to $250 per fortnight once we get in. And RBN's, the Reserve Bank of New Zealand's mandate will be sole focus will be on the price stability, keeping the inflation between 1% and 3%. And our measures will be more targeted rather than just giving you a few cents off your beans and carrots, which, by the way, you will be paying through a new fuel tax, which they forget to keep mentioning, right? So they are bringing the new tax. We will not bring a new tax on the Kiwis. Rather than that, we will give you a tax relief and among other raft of measures. And we will provide you a safer operating environment so people are safe in their homes and the workplaces.
Yes, good. You're all running to time, so no pressure, Mike.
Let's have a change of tack. I had 2 builders I was looking after with. I'm a physiotherapist, so I was treating them. They always hurt their backs. And I was saying to them that what we're doing is you're able to just go past the consent. You don't have to go for consent. If you're a good builder, you can take insurance. You don't need to get the consent from the council, and you can build the houses. And they said, there's too many cowboys out there and blah, blah. And I said, well, what do you guys like? Are you good builders? They said, yeah, we are good builders. And I said, do you think you could do that? Yes, I think we could do that. So that's 16% off the cost of the building straight away. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to allow people to bring in their own materials. If in the OECD it's been recommended that you can do it, you can bring it into New Zealand without having to get a new permit in New Zealand. That's going to reduce the cost of building as well. So both those situations is going to bring down the cost of building a house or the cost of fixing a house way lower.
Good work.
Did you hit that accidentally, or did you?
No, that was first time using it.
You hit that accidentally.
No, that's well done. So, second question. We'll just go back this way. So, are you for or against co-governance, and why?
Well, our Act stands by getting rid of the co-governance because of our individual freedoms and our human rights in New Zealand. It should be one person, one vote, and that's how it should be, and nothing should be focused on ethnicity. Everyone should be seen equal. Basically what was said by William Wallace in 1298, every man is born equal under the eyes of God.
Ankit.
Yeah, so we are not in the favor of co-governance because it's a democratic country, equal citizenship and equal rights. But in saying that, we will work with the local councils and the local agencies to do the water and other reforms well. So, but we do not support co-governance in the format Labor has proposed. In saying that, in the past, National Party has, if it's a natural resource in other formats, we have worked in the past one, but not for the public services. Public services, they should be available equally to everyone, and everyone should have an equal citizenship, equal right. As an example, Palmerston North is a multicultural city. It's a home to 130 different cultures. So everyone has equal rights.
Yeah, co-governance is already here, and I reflect on the way that the Waikato River has been co-managed with iwi, and just as a reminder, that treaty settlement was signed off by none other than Jim Bolger of the National Party. This was years ago. I remember I was at the signing as well. So this issue is not a new issue. It is a political wedge issue used by the right to scare up votes. Don't be distracted, people, because that is what it is. Having Māori voices around the council table is a good thing.
Look, I tautoko what Teanau has said. Yes, I'm supportive of co-governance. Yes, I'm supportive of bilingual road signage. Yes, I'm supportive of introducing Māori wards into communities as well. We have strong partnerships here. And our own community actually is a good example of the really strong partnership that we have with Rangitane as our local tangata whenua. This is not something to actually be afraid of. This is something that we need to embrace. We are a multicultural community, but based on the tenets of biculturalism. And so that means that we have an obligation to deliver on that.
You guys are doing really well. I didn't even need to bring the bell, but we'll see how we get on anyway. So this question was common that we got sent in from our readers, and it's about health. And lots of people there have got, they're concerned about the hospital essentially. So whether it's wait times or a lack of staff or just the need for a new facility. So, what are your plans to fix the problems at the hospital?
Look, I acknowledge that there are families in our community whose health experience hasn't been that great because of some of the issues in terms of getting folk through largely the ED department. But I do want to acknowledge the fantastic and sterling work that our health force has not only done up to this point, but continues to do as well. As a government, we have set aside investment into the Palmy Hospital here. I know that because I've opened the Emergency Department official observation area. I've opened the Manawatū. I've launched 2 linear accelerators here, all within the last 3 years. So the focus is on the workforce, and we've made it very clear that we want to get a larger number of doctors in there because the primary health care pressures are what is basically delivering on some of the concerns that we have up at the Palmy Hospital.
Cool, thanks. And if I can add to what Mr. Utikere said as well, and just focusing on that workforce issue, making sure that we have an income guarantee so that students are encouraged to take those career paths is something that we need to be thinking about. Is something that we need to be doing, because there is a shortage of nurses, there is a shortage of doctors, but there's also a shortage of clinicians. There's a shortage of support staff, all of that and more. And we can do that if we have an income guarantee so that students know if they take a pathway into tertiary education, they won't go hungry.
As I mentioned earlier, for the nurse, and starting with the nurses and midwives, we will provide them once they graduate and if they stay in the country and provide services to the country, we'll pay off their student loan for $22,500, like $4,500 every year. And another important measure we will bring so that public and all of you in this room can hold us to account is we will restore the health targets. So the Palmerston North Hospital, ED department is the worst wait times in the country, right? So our targets will be 95% of the people are seen, discharged, or attended within 6 hours. So we'll bring the health targets back so you can hold us to account, right? And another thing I mentioned earlier is we'll open up a 3rd medical school and increase the number of places so we can have more doctors in the country as well. And with our measures around the cost of living, so we'll have the... Thank you. Yeah. So we'll control the cost of living so we can keep more of they don't have to go overseas across the stitch. Thank you.
Yep, where you go.
Okay. There's quite a few things we've got to look at here. First of all, what the others are saying is a little bit tough because it's going to take 7 years to train a doctor. So there's a big gap in the middle there. The other thing what we've got to do is with ED, there's a lot of people clogging ED because they can't afford to go to the doctor. So what ACT's going to be doing is putting the capitate with doctors up by 13.5% immediately, so that there's more funding for doctors so they can see their patients, so we don't have that bottleneck up at the hospital. That's very, very important. The other thing we're going to do is we need to put more funding into the health. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a private-public partnership for building of the buildings. So we're going to have buildings built and we're going to lease them. And then they're going to go on a 30-year lease and then they're going to be replaced. Not like the one we've got now that's been there for too long. Ding, ding, ding. Is that it?
You've got 10 seconds, sorry, 10 seconds after the bell rings the first time.
Party Vote Act. Oh, me now, yeah.
Yes, hang on to it if you want, Mike. So, would your party put taxes on sugary drinks, and well, why or why not?
I don't know the policy on that, so I can't answer it.
Fair enough.
I can personally say I'm not, like I said, I'm not a fan of taxes. People should have a personal choice and treat adults them as adults, right? So let people decide what they want to do. But instead of that one, the government's focus should be on the cost of living, crime, housing infrastructure, and providing those basic core services. So we need to get our country back on track, and two ticks blue and party vote national is the only way to do it.
That's an interesting question, and I would actually have to have a bit more of a think about it. But you know what would be sweeter than a sugar tax? A wealth tax.
Look, there's been lots of discussion around this, the sugar tax, but the position of our party is not to impose a sugar tax, because we're more focused about supporting households at the moment so that they can make healthy choice decisions themselves rather than being taxed through the government.
All right. So the next one, stay there, Tangi. So how can provincial centres like Palmerston North compete for transport funding? Something that's been talked about for years, but we haven't got here, has been the heavy traffic ring road around the city. How can, or as our local MP, how can you advocate for us for projects like that?
Track record. I was. The National Party decided to OIA a couple of letters that I wrote to the Minister of Transport. And the two letters were advocating for funding. One was the Better Choices Transport Package, which is just over $5 million we got. The other is funding for the Capital Connection and support for that, again, hundreds of millions. So I'm not afraid to advocate really strongly. Just this morning, the Mayor of the district and of the city and I met with David Parker, with Barbara Edmonds. We talked about Te Utanga Nui, which is the strategy for delivering the freight ring road because of our strength in terms of logistics and distribution. I've already been advocating in that space. It doesn't appear in the New Zealand supply chain strategy, but that doesn't mean that we don't support it. And so the way in which we do that is by having a strong, active local MP, and I think I've done that based on my track record for the last 3 years.
Yeah, and what this guy needs is a strong coalition partner to help him push in there. Somebody that actually supports the direction of making sure that we have those connections across our region. So we also put out a letter supporting the Capital Connection, and we've been advocating on that as well. And it was really great to see that the Labour Party were doing that as well. There are more things that we can do to work together, and that's why I'm asking you to party vote Green this election, to put a big green heart in the Labour-led government.
George, can you repeat the question, please?
So, as our local MP, how, I can't see it now, how would you advocate for us for these big infrastructure projects such as the heavy traffic ring road and ones like that?
Thank you, because after listening to these answers, I thought I got the question wrong, but hey, thank you. Next ring road, it is marked for further investigation in our transport plan, and it's part of plan, and that will we be doing in our next term, right? And this is a document which I got it from the Mayor of Palmerston North and the Regional Council, and the first line they said they had a very little government investment. I don't know what these guys are going on about, and this is the documents, right? So I will be working with the local councils, whether it's Manawatū District Council or Palmerston North, and I will be a strong advocate not only for the ring road, but even a central New Zealand distribution hub as well. Because we are the middle million, and we have an absolute great, fantastic facilities in terms of airport, and we should be developing further in the Kiwi as well. And the ring road is the last piece of the puzzle, and I will be working on these investments. I would suggest you read the document. I don't know if these two gentlemen, I can hand it to them as well.
So if Ankit and I get together, we'll also present quite a good force for this area. So one of the big things in that same document is that we're going to have decentralisation of the government, and one of the big ones we're going to have here is the forces. So we've got Ohakia and we've got Linton Camp. So we're going to look at having the Minister of Defence actually in this area. So that would be a big driving force. The other thing that ACT is doing is providing funding for the council through allowing them to have half their GST on a lot of the charges that they make in this area. We also remember that we've got the big, huge rail hub that we're going to have out the railway land. So we're going to be a massive distribution centre in here. So it's essential for central government to get behind local government to provide that ring road.
Have we got an MP moving to town we don't know about, the new defence one? Have we got a new defence minister moving to town?
Yeah, it won't be me. I start fights, I don't finish them. Yeah.
All right. So on a similar note, we'll just start at your end again. Do you favour schemes like the Provincial Growth Fund that we've seen before to get money to the regions?
No, I don't think that's the answer. I don't think ACT believes that's the answer. The answer is to allow the council to take more of the funding that they generate in this area and stop central government from taking it all. We have to put it back to the local council, and we have to have a central government local council partnership, and we're going to be doing that over a 30-year term, whereby we'll be providing funding to that local council.
We'll be doing the regional deals, and for that one, we already had meetings, like I mentioned earlier, with the local councils, and like focusing on housing and infrastructure and other projects. We believe in devolution and rather than centralization, everything. So the local councils will be in charge, and we will be backing them, and that's why Chris Bishop, Nicola Wallace, Dr. Shane Ritty, Mark Mitchell, Erica Stanford, and our leader, Christopher Luxon, they all been here in Palmerston North to listen from the people in last 3 months.
Certainly support funding coming out into the regions, particularly for nature-based solutions. So in our Climate Safe Communities policy announcement, we had a piece in there around over $700 million fund to support regional councils and city councils to help to make their towns and cities more climate resilient. We know that there are going to be more intensive weather events, so supporting city councils and regional councils to do that is so important. Daylighting streams, planting out so that can be also a part of flood protection is so important, and also looking at the role that urban trees can play in helping to not only provide shade but also to bring down those, but to also make our communities safe and environmentally friendly places to live in.
There are certainly places for investment, whatever that looks like. So whether it's about the shovel-ready, over $4.5 million from the Labor government to support building at Papaioia Place housing, whether it's about other initiatives such as a couple of churches in this community that have been upgraded as a result of the funding for that, anything that delivers investment to this community I think is really important regardless of what particular vehicle it takes. Ankit has talked about this, our asks document, and I have read it. It was the basis of my meeting that I referred to this morning. It also touches on our domestic tourism for Te Apiti. It talks about decentralisation. It talks about Te Utanga Nui. It talks about the fact that we need to also be looking about strategic investment as well. So it's things like that, regardless of where the money comes from, but government sending it our way is important.
Great. All right. Another one, tertiary education. So we've seen universities across the country under a bit of pressure at the moment, and Massey's included in that. Even though it's in the Rangitikei, I think it's still a huge part of the city. What would you do to improve funding, or what would you like to advocate for funding for the tertiary sector, and particularly Massey?
I acknowledge that staff out at Massey are also doing it tough right now as they work through a process, and I know some of us were up there with their union last week, I think it was, for a meeting. I was approached as the local MP by the union to organise and facilitate a conversation with the Vice-Chancellor. I did that. I see that as fundamental to the role of a local Member of Parliament. As a government, we have increased the tertiary sector funding by 5%. In this year's budget, we've also announced a $128 million commitment over the next 2 years, and we've also announced that we intend to review the funding model because it has not been reviewed for quite some time and clearly is not fit for purpose. So education, while the university might be outside of this electorate, I'm pretty sure that most of the connection with it are people that live within here. So making sure that it's strong is very, very important.
Kia ora, yes, I was up at that meeting as well, and totally support what the union is doing up there and the incredible work that all the staff are doing up there, and also acknowledging the immense pressure that they are under. I think it's really important for us to recognise that tertiary education and universities, they are part of the public good. You know, they shouldn't just be these private enterprises focusing on the commodification of knowledge. And here in this space, I think it's important for us to step back from neoliberalism. It doesn't work. Trickle-down economics is a failure. We need to recognise our tertiary institutions for what they are. They are public goods. They benefit our communities in more ways than just actually the education vocational pathways. It's places where we need to have intellectual, rigorous debate. Another piece that I will talk about later after this bell.
I think the education is one of those another pieces where all of us will agree that there's a key, like a fundamental to the successful society. And I don't know, many in the room might know or not, but I was before being a candidate, I was at Massey staff for 4 years, so I know some of the challenges and some of the opportunities.
Join the union.
Well, there's another better option there. First thing is, there's to have a bit of different approach as well. So Massey and other places, right, they're doing an incredible work in the research and innovation. So we need to harness this one, and we need to commercialize and get that one out of New Zealand and into the world, so we can have better opportunities and in more export earnings and more income coming from overseas from what good staff and the researchers at these universities and institutions are doing it. Right? That's one approach. And the second is we will revive the international student market, because the international student market was the third largest income earner before COVID. So we will work in that space.
You right?
Yeah, you can
Your
go.
finger.
Stuck on there.
Right, it's actually scary, this education system and tertiary education. Elon Musk the other day said there is going to be 300 million jobs go with AI in the next few years. And the universities got to look at that. So the universities have got all these buildings and all these campuses, and a lot of them won't be needed. So there's two things we can do. We can actually shrink down, and because students now can go anywhere in the world to get the best professor, go to the best conference, go wherever they want in the world, and they can pick up degrees from Florida right now. So we have to be the best. We have to be the best university, so we can bring the world to us, and exactly what Ankit said. And we can bring the whole world to us on Zoom and bring them into it. And that's why we have to really search for excellence with our tertiary institutions at the moment.
Well done.
Finished.
Yeah, well, you had 10 seconds, but if that's... Yep, well done.
Party Vote Act.
Right. No, so the next one, is New Zealand doing enough to address climate change, and what should we be doing to curb our emissions?
Right, I think we are doing enough. I think our farmers are getting caned, our rural communities have been destroyed because of some ideological people on another planet, and we have an ETS, and we can stick to our ETS. We don't need the zero carbon bill. That will be gone. Okay, the Commissioner of Climate Change will be gone, because we're not mucking around with people like that. We are going to look seriously at the ETS. That's all we need, and we're going to reinvest the ETS back into all the people and give them all that money back to them so they can use it themselves. Thank you. Party Vote Act.
There's always room to do more, and to do that one, we have three major policies, which is called, first one is Electrify New Zealand, and then was in bringing the number of chargers to 10,000 by 2030 and working with the farmers. So Electrify New Zealand, we aim to have double the renewable energy and fast track the investments in that space, because we have plenty of opportunities to bring more renewable energy into our systems, right? And our aim or our target by 2030 is to have 10,000 EV chargers, because all these electric vehicles and everything, range anxiety is a big issue, and we will be investing in that one. We will be working with farmers so they can control and they can minimize the emissions on the farm. But one basic difference between others and us is we do not put people against each other, farmers versus city folks. So it's an all collaborative effort, and Party Vote National, so to get it over the line.
That was an accident.
First of all, climate change is real. The second thing, the fact that we have failed to listen to scientists is the reason why we are in the state that we are in. And talking about rural communities, what about what happened with Cyclone Gabrielle just over the hill there? Those communities were directly impacted by weather-intensive events. This is becoming the new norm. Every other week there is a 100-year flood happening somewhere in the world. We must take climate action. The time is now for us to take more climate action. We have to prepare and support our towns and our cities to build climate resilience into everything that they do. And that also includes around better planning for transport, supporting public and active transport, but also making sure that we support everybody to bring down their emissions.
Yesterday we released for the first time a climate manifesto that outlines a number of steps in terms of clean green energy, the move to 100% renewable energy, which is so important actually in this part of Aotearoa, New Zealand. So we are prepared to do our bit. What I am absolutely dumbfounded by are the two gentlemen who represent parties that effectively want to cut all of the stuff that we've started to do. We are committed as a party to continuing to get our emissions down as we have done for the last 3 years, every year. Now, National have said they want to roll out, first of all, National want to raid the Giddy Fund, which supports industry. They want to take all the money from the SURF, which is the Climate Emergency Response Fund. They want to not allow people to have the clean car rebate in order to, there really is no point rolling out EVs if you're going to take away the very vehicle by which people can get into the market. So yes, we are serious about it. National and others prefer to raid those initiatives in order to fund tax cuts that have holes in them.
I'll give you 20, but we're not making it a habit.
Sure. Something is mentioned, like how come justifying a corporate welfare like 90 million to Fonterra and 140 million to NZ Steel is justified? If someone can pay 80,000, they can pay 7,000. Right?
Well, since he started it, I stand by those initiatives because there needs to be support for business and industry to do the right thing. Anything that is an incentive to play their climate role is important, and I don't apologise for that.
All right, moving on. So another one we had a lot of reader feedback about was crime, and I know it's a hot topic across the country at the moment. How can you ensure people in the city feel safe?
Well, feeling safe is fundamental to any community, including here in Palmerston North. And so I'm proud of the fact that we set a target of delivering 1,800 police personnel, and we achieved that a matter of a couple of months ago. We've announced our intention to extend that for another 300 on the front line. We've also made changes to legislation, so there are two particular types of charges now, or offences, that didn't used to exist, but they do now. And I note that National are quite keen to cite the increasing stats. It's because now, if you are in a family violence situation within the home, you can be a victim who will have your perpetrator charged. If you are someone who is effectively suffering from impeding the flow of circulation, which is strangulation, you are charged. It is right and proper that people who offend in that way in households that are involved in domestic violence are held to account, and so we will continue the strong work that we have done to support the communities.
It's so important that everybody feels safe in their home, and it's important that we have safe communities, but we also must address the underlying inequities of poverty. That's what we need to be doing as well in support of all these other sorts of issues. If you deal with that when people have warm, safe, stable homes, when our young people have that, they're less likely to fall off the wagon. These, when people are hungry, when people are poor, these create extra pressures on already sometimes vulnerable people. So dealing with the inequities of poverty is so important, and actually helping to solve the core fundamental issues with inequality, which can lead to crime.
Before I start with what we will do in this space, I think gentleman on the left forgot to mention they had only one target in the justice space, to reduce the prison population by 30%, regardless of what is happening on the street, right? As numbers, gang population is up 80%, retail crime has doubled in Palmerston North District. You can check the facts. All right, what we will do in to resist, first, we will not be soft on crime, right? There will be judges, they will have the ability to maximize the sentencing discount to 40% only, right? And then we will bring a 20 million fund for the victims. So victims are the center of the justice system, and they can feel supportive as well. And then we will back the police, and we will give them the powers to tackle the gang members as well.
Some really good points coming out here, and I think it's important. One of the things I'd just like to mention is that Oranga Tamariki is a ministry set up to put wraparound services around vulnerable children. They shouldn't be looking after criminals. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the criminal element out of that away from Oranga Tamariki and put it in with corrections. We're going to build 200 new beds for youth criminals so that Oranga Tamariki can do their job and look after the vulnerable and look after the poor, but they can take the other ones out because we can't keep them in the community. We have to take them out of there so we can put services around them, we can rehabilitate them and get them back on track before they come back into a safe community.
To get back on track.
Teaming up there. So I think we might just have one more, just timing-wise. What's your position on the future of the winter energy payment?
Party Vote Act.
You can do better than that.
No, I don't know. I think it's still going. I'm not sure on the policy, so I can't comment on it. Yeah. Okay.
So winter energy payments and other initiatives for the seniors, they are staying, and so do not get into any misinformation. Those are staying under a national government. And along with other measures, along with the health and other, to keep our seniors safe, we will be backing our seniors as well. But to do all that, and we need a change in the government, and to change in the government, we need party vote national. Party vote national is the only way to do it and provide meaningful results and support for the community.
Yes, but wait, I've got more. In our policy announcements, the clean power payment policy announcement that I talked about earlier, we want to support homes to transition from using gas stoves and other fossil fuel appliances within their homes so that they can be able to afford solar panels, heat pumps and installations. And so it's a 6,000 startup grant that people can apply for as well as a 30,000 one-off, 30,000 no-interest loans, which we will use the EECA as an umbrella group working alongside regional councils as a part of their rating system. And the good thing about this from an emissions perspective is that if we did transition all of these gas appliances from our homes across Aotearoa, New Zealand, it is the equivalent of taking 222,000 cars off the road.
Labor introduced the winter energy payment, which is supporting households during the colder months, and so we've made it very clear that it's our intention to continue to have that in place. National talk about it being rolled out, their dodgy tax plan means that they're going to have to find some money from somewhere, so I'd imagine that the winter energy payment would be one of the first ones to go, alongside some other stuff to deep cuts to public services. But the other thing, of course, is that National are proposing to increase the superannuation age, which means it will reduce the number of people people in the senior category who are able to access it. We've made it very clear that we intend to keep the super at 65, and that's the end of it.
Great. All right. Do you want to do a closing? I know we didn't discuss this. Do you normally do them at these things? Yeah. All right. I'll give you another minute each of closing, and then we're done. Or is that too long? Well, you don't have to use it. You don't have to. You can do it in 10 if you want.
Keep going. Up to you, mate. You call the shots.
Yeah. All right. We'll do a quick closing, and then we're done. All right. All right. You just want to start down here, yeah.
Thanks everyone for this evening. As I've said, I've found it a privilege to represent this community, my home, for the last 3 years, and I'm asking you to re-elect me as the local Member of Parliament, but also know that Labor has a plan to support households that are doing it tough right now, a plan to support households that are also suffering from many things, including the recovery for the cyclone events earlier in the year. We believe that targeted support around food and veggies, homes, dentistry, alongside, super, minimum wage, lots of other things there, is the right way to go. Not dodgy tax cuts that are not funded, unaffordable, and will not deliver any relief to the very whānau who need it here in our community. Re-elect Tangi Utikere as your local Member of Parliament and party vote Labour.
Kia ora te whānau. Also, thank you from me. It's awesome to be here to share our ideas and our policies. If you support a climate and community, if you support people and planet and people before profit, then I'm asking you to party vote Green this election. If you're one of the 1.4 million renters and you think we should have rental controls so that you have a warm, healthy home, I'm asking you to party vote Green this election. If you think we should have healthy oceans and we should have more marine protected areas, I'm asking you to party vote Green this election. If you think a Tiriti-centric Aotearoa is a great place to live in, I'm asking you to party vote Green this election. It's been an honour and a privilege being an MP based here in Palmerston North in Parliament as a Green Party member. This election we have party vote Green. Thank you. I'd hit the bell.
Thank you, George, and thank you for everyone for coming out and listening to all of us here today. Like I said, right, this is my commitment, right? Since March and till October, that's given up my everything and just focus on this one because I'm so committed to represent people of Palmerston North. We deserve better, and we will get better once I'm your local Member of Parliament. Because in the last 3 months, like I said, Nicola Willis, Chris Bishop, and I'll bring all those MPs to here to talk to Palmerston North. Cost of living, bringing a better economy, so we can feel all safe in our homes and workplaces. So we deserve to have a better housing and better infrastructure plans. And we deserve to have a better healthcare and education rather than the longest wait times in the country in the history in Palmerston North. So you need a strong local voice. All indications are it'll be a next national government. So you need a national MP who can bat for you in Palmerston North, and I'm the one for you. So party vote national and 2 ticks blue.
The biggest issues that we see is cost of living, crime and co-governance, and this government caused all of it. Now, if you want a change from that, from high interest rates, from high inflation, from all those things, then you really have to seriously look at getting a new government in for real change to make a difference in this land and bring us back to a sovereign and democratic society.
Brilliant work, guys. Could I just have another round of applause for our 4 candidates, please? Yeah, that was good. So thanks everyone for joining us. Anyway, hopefully you learned something and and you're a bit more informed in a couple of weeks on election day. So thanks everyone. Cheers.